A very warm welcome to you once again. Thank you for joining me. This is Dr. Zulfikar Kassam here, working with you for presenting the Data Communications and Network course. We are right now in lecture 12 of this course. If you remember back in lecture 7 of this course, I had presented to you this network diagram. In this network diagram, we basically had 4 computers, 2 on each side of the network, one belonging to VLAN 1, or I should say 2 computers belonging to VLAN 1, and 2 computers belong to VLAN 2. We have a switch on either side of this network, and we had a router. So we looked at how a packet from computer A initially goes to computer B. We had that example, and then we had the second example in which computer A sent a packet to computer D on the other side of the network. So we had a simple diagram, a simple network, and we looked at the process in which the packet gets from place A to place B. As I mentioned, we had the first example, computer A to computer B, and then we had the second example, computer A to computer D. So we went into detail. So today what we'd like to do is to draw the same network, or kind of create the same network in Cisco Packet Tracer. So how do we do that? So let's go through the process of doing exactly that. Okay. So let's pause for a moment while I start my Cisco Packet Tracer, and we'll continue on. All right, we now have the Cisco Packet Tracer opening here. So what we're going to do is first of all introduce the 4 computers that we need for this particular diagram. Okay, so I'm going to introduce 4 PCs to the network, right? So this is going to be our first PC in the network. This is going to be our second PC in the network. We're going to have a third PC, and we're going to have a fourth PC in the network. Okay, so 4 computers in the network. What we're going to do in here is, from a configuration standpoint, we'll go one thing at a time in here. So configuration standpoint, we'll call this, just to be consistent with what we had before, was computer A. So we had computer A over here. Okay. Computer A had an IP address of 192.168.1.1 with a subnet mask of /24, which means the subnet mask is 255.255.255.0, right? So this is 24 bits in here, which imply that this is subnet mask. So basically what this means is that 192.168.1 is the network address, and the last octet is the host address. Okay. So we've configured that. We have given this a name in the setting piece. All right. So we configure this piece now, computer A. Then we have computer B. So we'll configure computer B here. So this, once again, for consistency's sake, we'll call it computer B. And in computer B is going to be the fast Ethernet address. It's going to be 192.168.1.2. And the subnet mask is going to be same, 255.255.255.0, so /24. And as I mentioned, 192.168.1 is the network address. So both computers are the same network, so same network address, but the host address, which is .2 in this case, is different. So let's close this. So we have now 2 computers configured on this side. All right, so now we have the third computer here. This, we're going to call it computer C. And computer C has an computer C, sorry, I just configured the computer C over here. And the IP address for computer C is going to be 192.168.2.1. Okay. And then we're going to have a computer D. So this is going to be computer D. And the computer D IP address is going to be 192.168.2.2 and with the same subnet mask. Okay. So now we have 4 computers in place. Now we're going to have a couple of switches in place, right? So here we're going to introduce a couple of switches. So the switch we're going to have is a 2960 in here. And we're going to introduce another 2960 on the other side. So we're going to connect this computer here. We're going to connect this computer A to the switch, and we're going to connect the computer B to a switch as well, right? So we're going to click on this connectivity icon in here. We're going to use a copper straight through cable to connect computer A's fast Ethernet port to the switch, and we're going to use port number 1 for the switch. Okay. Similarly, we're going to use once again the copper straight through cable to connect computer B's fast Ethernet port to the switches fast Ethernet port number 2. Notice port number 1 has disappeared here from the choices because port number 1 is already connected. So we're going to connect to port number 2. Okay, so now we have 2 computers connected to the same switch. Okay, so now you can see the link here has started to become green, so it's up and running. This one is still amber, so it's starting to come up. Okay, so let it come up, and then what we're going to do is just to confirm that everything is good. We know that the Ethernet address here for this specific switch is 192.168.1.1, and the other one is 1.2. Okay, so here what we're going to do is this: we'll go to the command prompt just to confirm everything is good. It's always good to confirm things so that you know everything is good so far, and we continue on, right? So we're going to go IP config over here on the first computer. So you can see we are on computer A over here. We're going to go IP config here. And you notice the IP address is good, 192.168.1.1. The subnet mask is good as well, right? And what we're going to do is to make sure we have connectivity with the switch. Now, switch, we can configure the switch with IP address and so on and so forth. We did that in the previous exercise, so I won't go through the details here. You can have a look at the previous time whereby we configured the switch using command line interface. Right now, the interesting thing is to try and see connectivity between the computers. So I'm going to ping computer B from here, which is 192.168.1.2. Okay, you can see they are replying. So basically, computer A can talk to computer B, which is exactly what we wanted, right? So computer A can talk to computer B. Computer A's IP address is 192.168.1.1, and computer B's address is 192.168.1.2, and they can talk to each other. So I just pinged from A to B. If the reply is there, usually that means that the other computer can talk to the first one. But if you want, we can confirm that. So let's go to computer B. So now we are here on computer B, and we go to the desktop command prompt here. We can do the same thing here. We can do ipconfig. And this is 192.168.1.2 address over here with the same subnet mask. And here I can go ping 192.168.1.1, which is the first computer or computer A. And this is replying as well. So you can see there's communications both ways within the switch. Okay. So let's do the same thing. Let's try and connect the computer C to this other switch. And we have computer D to the second switch as well, right? So we're going to use the same thing, copper straight through cable to connect this Ethernet interface to fast Ethernet 01 as we did the first time around. And then we're going to use a straight through cable once again to connect this fast Ethernet interface to fast Ethernet 02. Okay, so let's wait for this to come up and we'll do the same test very quickly to confirm everything is working fine. It takes usually a few seconds for that to happen. In real life, the switch can take up to 50 seconds for it to come up and running fully. Right, so here we go. So here we have the machine PC or computer number C over here. And the IP address is 192.168.2.1. So we can go in here. We can do an IP config to confirm. Okay, 192.168.2.1. You can see the address in here. You can see the subnet mask over here. All right. So now we're going to ping 192.168.2.2, which is the other computer. Alrighty. So you can see you can ping the other computer, and same should be true the other way around as well. Okay. Now let's save this information in here as one of the demos. So this is demo 2. Let's save this demo 2 in here. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to introduce a router into the network. So we're going to introduce a 2901 router to this network, and we're going to connect the two networks together. So this router, as you can see, it has 2 gigabit Ethernet ports in here. You can click on the router itself as well if you like, and look at physically how it's laid out. And from a configuration standpoint, we have, as you can see, 2 gigabit Ethernet interfaces in here. Okay, so that's the router that we're going to have in place. Now the router, the gigabit Ethernet 0, we're going to give it an IP address just like we had in the network diagram, 192.168. Now this happens to be in the first network, so obviously the network address has to be the same, 192.168.1. The host address should be different. Now usually routers, most companies tend to either use .1 or .254, either the first IP address or the last IP address. So in here, we're going to use the last IP address as an IP address for this interface. And then we're going to specify an IP address in here, 192.168.2, which is a second network, .254, with the same subnet mask. Okay, so now we have the router configured with just the IP address for now. We need to still configure more things on the router. We'll just come to it in a moment. Now, what we do need to do is to connect the switch to the router. So we're going to use a straight through cable to connect the switch. We're going to use, let's say, because there's a gigabit Ethernet port on the other side, we're going to use a second port in here, gigabit Ethernet, to connect to gigabit Ethernet 00, because remember that has to be in the same network. So we configured 00 to be 192.168.1 address. So we're going to configure or connect that port, and then we're going to use a straight through cable once again to connect fast Ethernet 02 on the switch side to port 01 on the router. Okay, so this will take a few seconds to come up. Let's confirm that the port is actually up and running. So here you can see by default, the port, the gigabit 00 port is actually off. You can see it's unchecked. Okay, so we need to turn that on. And then only in here, we need to make sure that this interface is on as well. And you can see here the resulting information in the console indicating that the port is actually going up. Okay. So now let's see, you can see at least the one green arrow here trying to communicate with the switch. This will take a few seconds before it comes up and working. So now you can see this one has already changed to green. So in this case, let's go to the switch. We can see if we hover over the switch, you can see fast Ethernet 01 and 02 are up and running, which is the two computers. And gigabit Ethernet 02 is up and running as well, which is connected to the router. Okay. So right now we are concerned about, so the connectivity is there. You can see that the router is connected to all the switches. So let's go to computer number A. From computer number A, we will try to see if we can ping the router, right? So here we're going to go ping 192.168.1.254. So you can see that the router is replying. I can go on computer B as well and do the same thing. I can go to computer B here and go ping 192.168.1.254, which is the router address on network number 1, and you can see that is replying as well. So we're good with the connectivity on one side of this network. Now let's go to computer C and find out if computer C can actually ping its side of the router. So ping 192.168.2.254, and that's replying as well. Okay. And let's see if we can go to computer D and see if we can ping. So you can see we have computer D here. And let's try and ping 192.168.2.254. And you can see that's replying as well. So you can see both sides of the network is replying to each other. Question is, will the computers be able to communicate across the network? And the answer is going to be no. So let's prove this. So let's try to ping 192.168.1.1. So we are trying from this side, computer D, to ping computer A. And this is obviously not going to work because the router has not been configured to route information. We just have an IP address. So far, as you can see, this route is going to fail, right, on computer D. So it's not pinging right now. So now we're going to go to computer A and try to ping computer D. And obviously that's going to fail as well. We just want to prove it here. So what we are going to do here is we're going to ping 192.168.2.2. So it's the computer on the other side. And this is definitely not going to work. As we mentioned, the router is not configured as yet. So this is going to time out on us. So now what we do need to do is to configure the router to route information. So for the router to route information, we do need to configure the routing protocol. Okay, so we'll get to this in a moment. So let's go to the router itself. So far, if we look at the router configuration, what we have is given it an IP address and turned the interface on. So that's what we have done. So we have the 192.168.2 over here. We have the 192.168.1. So now we're going to turn on what is called the RIP routing. This is basically one of the routing protocols that you can use to configure routing. The other protocols we'll talk about later. The RIP is the shortest or the easiest way to configure an automatic routing protocol. This is the easiest one to configure in terms of automatic routing protocols. So all we have to do in here in terms of the RIP protocol is to specify the network address. Okay, so we'll specify the network addresses that we want to have RIP look into. So 192.168.1.0. Remember, a network address will always have a 0 as the last octet. Okay, because depending on, of course, the subnet mask, but the last part, the host address portion of it should be .0. that will designate the address of the network. So let's go to add that. And we're going to do another one, 192.168.2, which is the second network here, is 192.168.2.0. Okay, so now we have configured two different networks in here that RIP, this protocol RIP, is going to be used to route information. So let's save this while we are here. Okay, now let's go back to computer A. Okay, let's see if things are working. So let's go to computer number A, and we have, or on computer number A, and let's try to ping and see if it works. And the expected result is that it's not going to work. Okay, and why is that? Number A has not been configured to route information to the router itself. Right? It has not been configured to route information using the router. The way we do this is we need to configure the default gateway. The default gateway is the router address we're going to be using, and that has not been configured so far. So if we look at the configuration so far on computer number A, we gave it an IP address in here, 192.168.1, but we have not yet specified the default gateway, which is 192.168.1.254. So we look at the settings in here, you can see the default gateway is empty. So we need to do here 192.168.1.254. Okay, so this needs to be configured here. And the same thing needs to be configured on computer B, because computer B is on the same network, so it can use the same default gateway as well. So you can see here computer B has been configured an IP address, but the default gateway is empty. So here the default gateway is going to be the same 192.168.1.254. On the other side of the network on computer C and D, we also have to configure a default gateway as well, because we only have configured the IP address so far. We have not configured the default gateway, which is empty. It's going to be 192.168.2.254. Okay, so I'll just copy this here, and I need to confirm or copy that onto the last computer here. And I'm going to configure it here. So you can see the IP address is there, but the default gateway is actually empty. So which is going to be 2, because this is in the .2 address. You can see .2 here, .2 there, right? Okay, so let's confirm here that now we have the computer A with the default gateway configured correctly. We have computer B, where the default gateway is correctly configured to 192.168.1.254. Computer C should be 192.168.2.254, and the other one should be 192.168.254. Since we are here, we might as well save this config over here. Now let's see if we can go to computer A and ping computer D. Okay, so let's go in here and see if we can ping computer D. You can see computer D is replying. So computer A over here, you can see computer A is now getting a reply from computer D. Similarly, I can go to computer C, and that should be replying as well. Conversely, I can go in here onto computer D, and from computer D, I should now be able to ping 192.168.1.1, which is computer A. So I'm getting a reply from computer A. And I should get a reply from computer B as well. So you can see all the communications is now working perfectly between the computer and the switch and the router in between as well. So that's a pretty long lesson. And this is where we'll end for today. Thank you for joining. Have a great day. Please take care. Join us again. Hope to see you here again. Take care. Have a good one. Bye bye.